recording. So today will be the sprint planning of our first project. And before that, I would like to address to a lot of other things as well. Okay. Cool. I think I have already shared the demo session link, not demo, sorry, the Agile session link to you guys. Have you guys watched that session?
Yes.
You guys have, right? Okay. Fine. Anyone who has not yet watched the session? Everyone has watched it. Okay, awesome. So if everyone has watched it, so first and the most important thing is Namita and Swati, can you please switch on your video, because this is a mandatory thing in our project session, because it's a daily update that we have. So now from now onwards, you're not coming to a class for training. You guys are coming to share your development or work that you have completed. Okay, so that is a mandatory thing from today. Okay, so any questions before we start with our sprint plan?
As in from this
Agile.
agile session, yeah.
Correct.
So I have been through that. I have a couple of questions. As you said, waterfall is a sequential method, and the prototype or the product will be discussed at the end with client. And agile is more flexible, and we divided the session into 2 weeks of sprints. So we work on 2 weeks on the things first, and then discuss on it. Like, is it like after 2 weeks we'll see the progress, how at what stage we are, and if there are any issues we resolve them, and then we push to the next sprint. Is it that way?
Yeah. For example, let me give a very practical use case. Suppose the wallpaper that I can see at your back. Okay, it's a London Bridge, I guess, or bridge is there. Okay. So if I have to construct that bridge, okay, I cannot construct the bridge everything at one go. I will break it into small parts. Maybe the first part will be the foundation, okay, where whether my soil has got that capacity to handle the pressure, or the load test will be there. Okay. So maybe I will be now doing it into multiple phases. Sprints are nothing but different phases that we have. So my first phase is soil test. So for the first 2 weeks, it will be only soil test. And in case of development in Power BI, maybe the entire dashboard is the one thing, but the dashboard is a part of that sprint. You are not working on one dashboard at a time. You will work minimum 3 dashboards, or more than 3 dashboards also. So in a single sprint, that means in 2 weeks of time, maybe 4 dashboards you're creating. And 4 dashboards have come to you from 4 different clients. So every client will take a scrum call with you. Okay, so in 9 hours, almost 4 or 5 hours are wasted just on meetings. Okay, you just get a very little time for development. That's the reason developers need to extend their shifts and times as well in order to meet the requirements. So now, for example, you have 4 dashboards that you have got, and 4 dashboards has to be completed within 2 weeks. So 2 weeks is the deadline of this 4 dashboard. But overall, the project is very big. It's a 6 months project, or maybe 1 year project, maybe 20 dashboards you need to create, and you just got 4 dashboards at the moment. So now it has got segregated into small tasks, 4, 4, 4, 4, maybe in 5 sprints it will be completed. That means in 10 weeks of time. Okay. So now in this 2 weeks, you will be constantly giving update on a daily basis. This is how I have progressed. These are the developments that are completed. And at that end of that sprint, that after 2 weeks of time, those 4 dashboards should be ready. That means you should get approvals from the client. So there are different phases called as development, QA, UAT. So this comes under UAT phase, user acceptance testing, when the user will come and tell you no and let you know that, boss, my job is done, your dashboard is looking good, and you can publish the work to the production. So in this sprint, you have got the approval. So sprint means that within that deadline, that is of 2 weeks, you need to get the approval of the tasks that's been allocated to you. I'm not talking about the entire task. Maybe it can also be that entire dashboard will take 4 weeks of time, but in that sprint, maybe only 2 visuals have to be created, means 2 charts have to be created. But you should get the confirmation from your client that these 2 charts are as per my expectation. That means you need to have an approval from the user within that sprint. And since it's a continuous process, so every day you will talk about your task, every day you will talk about any blockers you might have, every day you will receive feedback from the client. And at the end of the sprint, they will give you confirmation that it is a go ahead from us. So you need to take the approval within that particular sprint. That is the idea of the agile process.
Okay, and I think we have a scope of enhancement on the final product from client. Like if there are any enhancements from clients, then we do entertain those in Agile.
Yeah, absolutely. So your clients can come up with any enhancements in between the sprint as well. Now, as a developer, it is not possible. So developer gives the time based on the initial requirement. If something is getting changed in between, it will affect my development time, right? So those are called as the on-the-fly changes. So these have a terminology. Okay, these enhancements are called as the on-the-fly changes. That means within the sprint, some changes come. So if there are any on-the-fly change requirements that have flowed in, now, as a developer, you need to understand your development time that whatever the initial task was, whether you are able to complete that task within the sprint, that is your first priority, not the enhancements. The enhancements will come under the second priority. If that is also needed to be included within that sprint, then you need to let the client know whether you are capable to do that or not. If time is not permitting you, you will have to say no, this we will take in the next sprint as a new requirement. Your enhancements will come as a new enhancements requirement within this development. But if you are able to complete it within this sprint, then you can say yes, that okay, we can take up this task and we can include it. So enhancements will be there, and clients are always giving you enhancement. Now, as a developer, that's the reason I always say that you need to be a good communicator because you will be the one who will take the decision, not your team lead. Team lead won't know anything about your Power BI developments. Your team lead will only say that will you be able to do that? Now you need to say yes or no. So you need to say no in certain areas as well.
So in that way, can we say if the enhancement is too challenging for the existing timeline, we can extend the timeline as well,
If
the
your
final delivery?
sprint's time won't be extended, it will come in the next sprint. But this project has to be delivered within that sprint itself. If any enhancements has come, that was not your fault. And it was not a part of the initial requirement that was set. So that will come for the next sprint.
So when you say this project will be delivered in these 2 weeks of sprint, the part of the project you're talking about.
Part of the project, or maybe the entire project. Means in Power BI, it's the entire dashboard that has to be completed within 2 weeks. And not
Okay.
even 2 weeks,
But
within 3 or 4
enhancement
days. Mhm.
enhancement will require more time now. Like whatever
That
I
will take more
want to.
time. If it is a small enhancement, for example, the pie chart is also there. Maybe in that pie chart, they need a tooltip chart. So it's a small part of the requirement. So I can enhance that if, and that too, if time permits you, only then. But if even if you're not getting time to create that tooltip chart, then you will say that, boss, my time is very limited. I need to at first complete with all the other KPIs that I have. Once this is developed, I'll then work on this new enhancement that you are missing. It might take time, it may not take time. So it depends upon the requirements.
Okay. And on blockers thing, you said we mostly park the blockers aside until and unless they gets resolved during the time frame of the sprint. But we will concentrate on the part of the, I mean, the target of the sprint after for those 2 weeks, and then in the next sprint we can specifically work on the blockers itself. Like there are 3 4 blockers. If there are 3 4 blockers, we'll concentrate on those. But my understanding with blockers was blockers are something which are actually blocking the progress of
No,
the
there
project.
I'll address to this question itself. So blockers doesn't mean that I will have to bring it in the next sprint. Doesn't mean blocker means that if a blocker has come, I'm not able to proceed at all. And maybe you have other tasks to proceed on, but not in this task. So this task is getting affected. This life cycle is getting affected because of that blocker. Now, if this blocker is due to any technical knowledge gap that you may have,
Mhm.
then you will have to fix that. There is no other alternative. Maybe you have to connect to a different team member, a senior, but get help and get it resolved. But if it is dependent on some other team, maybe some informations are not provided by other team. Maybe the requirement is not clear and clients are not coordinating with you in spite of multiple reminders and emails, then it's not your fault. So now, because of those loss of days that happened due to that blocker, it affected your sprint deadline, right? You won't be able to complete it. So it will either go as it will either go means it will go into the backlog for sure. It will go to the backlog. Whether that backlog has to be cleared within the next sprint is the decision taken by the business. Whether if it is a priority wala task, then in the next sprint I will have to get that completed because that was initial requirement. But if it is not a priority task, then your project manager or you or the BA guy will take a decision that, okay, we will park this for some time. It's not a very priority task. The other tasks are more prior. The clients want this information at first. We will keep a separate session or separate sprint for clearing the backlogs. So it will go to the
Okay.
backlogs and then we will be clearing that.
Okay, so depending on the priority, we can target then.
Yes. And suppose you have only one task, and within that task only you have got a blocker, and that means it is affecting your productivity now. Now it is your task to make yourself productive, but more than you, it's your manager responsibility to make you more productive. Okay, because it's a hit to the KPI of the manager that you are not being productive. So now the manager will come into picture. He will get into the other team talk or whatever help he is able to do. He will provide you and get the information. But it is from the client side. Then client is paying us. If they are okay to pay without any work, it's their job. Our responsibility is to keep on sending them reminders that we are not being productive. We do not write we are not being productive. We just say that this is the blocker. We need more information. Or there are multiple hierarchies. You just need to shift the hierarchy at that time to get information.
Okay. Okay. That's all from mine. Thank you.
Any other questions from you? No question. Okay. So if you don't have any questions, hopefully everyone has checked the Agile session, right? Is there anyone who's not checked? Please raise your hand so that I can understand that there are a few people who have not checked the session. Otherwise, you won't understand what we are talking today. Yes, Namita, did you check?
I have checked half session.
Yeah. Please check the full session. Okay, it's not a very big one. So please check it. So now my open question is to all. If you have checked the session, there is one thing that I have covered, but still I have not covered. I just wanted that question to flow in. So let me ask that question to you. In a month, how many story points can be handled? First, say what is a story point, and second, then tell me how many story points can be handled by a developer within a month. What is a story point?
The story point is basically the task during the sprint that we are working on I mean, whatever the dashboard we are working on. The story point is the task basically which is discussed during the client meet, and then if there are any issues with that or
That
whoever
is a
the
task. No, task is called a task. Task is not called a story point.
okay.
So in the sprint planning, when we are doing a sprint planning, we discuss the topics, how the sprint will be calculated, how longer this project will be done. Those topics are covered under story points, sprint story points.
Oh, not very exact.
As per complexity, the task has been distributed. It comes under story point.
Complexity in story point.
Yes.
Story point is nothing much, nothing. It's the time that you will take for that task to complete. It's the time that you are taking for that task. Now, story point follows a particular type of series called as Fibonacci series. I'm not talking about that. Let's consider 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Okay. So one story point, suppose say one story point means 8 hours of work. So in a day, you can work for 8 hours for an organization. That's the government norms. If you're extending, you're extending. So 8 hours is considered as a one story point, for example. Okay. So one story point doesn't mean 8 hours, it's less than that. So one story point has 8 hours, equivalent to 8 hours. So now, for example, I am taking more time, okay, to get that job done. Suppose it is a task of 8 hours, but I might take 16 hours. So for me, it's a 2 hours task, okay, a 2 days task. So I will put the story point as 2. So it is the time taken by you to complete that task. So whenever the story point will be determined, it will be asked to the developer. If your project manager is good with your Tableau and Power BI skills, then they might interfere and tell you that, boss, this is not a very big task. Okay. Or maybe if that person is not technical, but based on the requirement, he is able to gauge something. Okay, that this should not take much time. We can understand, right? If it's only a column name that has to be added, it cannot take days or hours to do it. It will take few minutes. Then we will keep it 0.02 to 0.25 instead of 1 as your story point. That it will take only, suppose, say 25 minutes and not 1 hour. So that is how the story point is distributed. That means how much time you are taking. So suppose a task which is complex to you might not be complex to me and vice versa. Something comes up, complex to me might not be complex to you. So something which is complex to me, I will take a longer time. So I will tell that this is the time that I'll take, boss. Instead of 8 hours, I will take, suppose, say 14 hours. So I'll put my story point accordingly. And you will also do the same thing. So whenever a task will come to you, always you will see in the industry, your managers will be up to you, how much time, kitna time lagega, kitna time lagega. They will ask you constantly this question. Now, every project is not following Jira or Agile ceremonies. They don't do the Agile ceremonies correctly. Okay, so maybe those are not tracked or maintained properly. Verbally, maybe they might ask you constantly, but you need to always encourage your team leader to follow any tracking medium so that these kinds of questions can be avoided and everything is there on one plate. Okay, so that should be our understanding. So story point is nothing but the total amount of time taken by a developer to complete a work. Okay. Suppose, for example, and initially when the requirement will come, you will have to give an estimation because when the sprint plan is done, everything is happens with an estimation that I'm giving you this much amount of time to get it done. But these are the number of tasks that have come in. We will have to complete it, how much time we will take. So everything will be estimated. You cannot give an answer that I don't know how much time I will take. You cannot give. You will have, that's the reason there are no rooms for freshers in this business. It is only experienced people. Why? Because so that you know that in the past how much time you might have taken for similar kind of requirement and you are in a position to give some kind of estimation. Because time is equivalent to money. Clients do pay hourly basis as well. So when they are paying hourly basis, then they are investing a lot on your hours. So now, if you are telling that, suppose it's a 3-story point task, that means 24 hours. 24 hours means 3 days work, you're saying. So 3 days is a very big task, okay? 3 days means a lot of work is there. So suppose you're saying story point 3, but when you started to work, you found that no, it will take more than 3 days. So you will have the flexibility to increase or decrease the story point as well. Okay. So it's your responsibility. First of all, we won't give any day. Won't give any estimation which is taking less time. Means you will have to consider the fact that it will take more time. Suppose you are able to do in 3 days, but you will give the task 4 days. Okay, 4 days time. Why? So that if something goes wrong, you are able to meet within the time that you have mentioned. And if something you are able to solve like 3 days you estimated, but you solve within few hours. First of all, I generally tend not to inform the client that I have completed the task. It depends upon your speed. If I'm able to save some time, it's my time. I have saved that. Now, if you are very, very honest and if you want to go back to the client and say that, okay, I've completed it, take it. There are a few members who always try to show their work. I've done this, I've done. So if you do this, then it will come back to you only because they will say that, okay, now you have completed this, you are no more productive for me. Okay, do this also. Maybe you take up some backlog task and get it done as well within this sprint. So then they will give you additional pressure. Okay. So you have the flexibility to change your story point, but it should not be like a massive change, like a 2-story point becoming 5 or a 5-story point becoming 10. That should not happen. 2 can become 3, 3 can become 4, 2 can reduce to 1, 3 can reduce to 2. So 1 story point here and there, ups and downs, is legitimate. If it is more, then the requirement should also be very strong. Means your client should also say that, oh yes, it is. It's a big task. So story point depends upon complexity.
And Deep, I have just one question. So do we need to provide the estimation to the Scrum Master or to the client?
So eventually it goes to the client only because they are the business. And Scrum Masters are not involved in every project. So in most of 95% of cases, you will inform it directly to the stakeholders.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So total story points are getting calculated per sprint, right? Not per task in that sprint.
Story point is for that task, but
Task.
in that sprint, you will have multiple tasks, right?
Right.
So your sprint story point is different. Sprint don't have a story point. Sprint is like 2 weeks or 4 weeks. It's upon the agile practice that they're doing.
Mhm.
If they consider one sprint, so in some organ projects I have worked, they don't call it sprint. They call it flight. Why they are calling it flight? Because their sprint time. Sprint means, what is the meaning of sprint? That you are running fast. That is called sprint. Okay. So they break it into small pieces and they try to achieve everything fast. That is called a sprint. When it is a flight means they will take longer time. Okay, like it's a two months time. They are giving for one task 2 months time. So that it becomes a flight. Yes, Vikas.
Deep sir, in the last in Agile session, you spoke about you review the entire thing before you send it to QA or before you send it to client. You do the entire project over review. In that case, like, do we do the peer review with the senior one, or do we involve manager in it, or any lead, or any reporting person in it? Like, how am I done
So
till now?
peer reviews are not in the IT industry. We don't do peer reviews a lot, okay, because you are the developer and you are the sole creator. Yes, sometimes peers can be involved. First of all, everyone is burdened with a lot of work. Okay, so if you can get someone who can help you and sit with you and check your report, then it's great. In most of the cases, so that's a very steep ask nowadays because the number of developers who are involved in a project is one, not even two, one. You are the individual. You will work, and most of you guys will work as an individual contributor. So there is no scope of peer review. But in case if you have any, then it's great. You need to consider yourself lucky. So you can ask for that person's help to just check. I have worked on this. You check. The team managers won't get involved. So that is called as unit testing. So unit testing means you are testing your own work. Okay. If you are confident with your own work, then only it will be moved to QA. That is the quality analyst will come and will check your work. If they have to share any feedbacks, then they will once again get back task. Means once again the task will come back to you because they have shared some review on that. So when they will share the review, there are a lot of means it will happen over email. So your managers will also get to know that a lot of work is coming back to you from the QA. That means you're not testing your work properly, or maybe your development is not that great. That's the reason the QA is getting involved. So QA and developers are never friends. Okay. So once the QA comes, means QA feedbacks you receive, you work on the QA feedbacks. Once again, you get that rectified. And again, it will go to QA. Again, they will check if there are any things are missing. Again, it will come. So it will to and fro. The task will go from you to QA, QA to dev, dev to QA, QA to dev. Once you receive the approval from QA, then it will go to UAT, user accepted testing. That's the stakeholders who actually gave that task to you. Now they will check. So if any feedback comes from UAT, it will once again come to dev, the developers. The developers will fix it. Then they will not send it to UAT once again. They will send it to QA once again that, okay, the UAT feedback was this. Now you check based on the UAT feedback whether it's working fine or not. If they say that yes, then again it will go to UAT. Now, if they find any other issue, again this process will continue. If they find no other issues are there, then UAT approval will get. UAT feedbacks we try to avoid. Okay. Why we try to avoid? Because it is not appreciated in the industry. It affects the sprint deadlines, and last moment changes are quite deadly. Okay, it will affect the entire sprint. So that's the reason we always say be transparent to the client. Okay, on a daily basis, you are meeting on Scrum calls. When you're meeting on Scrum calls, explain, get the information there itself. Why you are waiting till the last day when you to receive the feedback. So never assume anything and proceed with your development. It should always be based on confirmations from the client, and that too, not verbal communications, email communication.
So to avoid that, you have said something, and at the end, like even you tried it by your own self also to go through cross-check everything, whatever client requirement have I done with the same thing, like the font and the chat and pie chart and the other stuff, donut chart, whether it is matching or not. That is something that you have explained. So could you elaborate a little more?
Yeah, that is unit testing. Nothing. It's just you're testing your own work. Like for example, I'm painting a wall. Okay. So initial putty I have done, then I'm putting the color. So what I'll check whether my brush strokes are there or not, whether I can see any pattern of my brush. So it should be absolutely plain. It should reflect light. It should not be dull. It should not look bad, or any areas if I have missed. So I want to be a good painter and I want to paint it correctly. If I am happy and satisfied with my work, that means when you are checking granular informations of your data, my data is correct, coming correctly or not, whether there is any errors, my font is looking good or not. Everything is visuals, right? Visualization. And you guys are all on LinkedIn. If you see that some people post their dashboards, some dashboards look good, some doesn't look good. When you feel that this dashboard is looking good, why do you feel that? Because the first impression matters a lot, right? It's not the data that you check, it's the visual that you check initially. The first check is the visual, and second is your data. Data is the most important thing, but visuals and data doesn't go hand in hand. The first impression is that whether my dashboard is good or not. If your visualization is good, then definitely it's good. And then you will check the data. So I will check my visuals at first, and then I'll check the underlying data. And when I'll be developing, I'll be concentrating more on data and then later on visuals, because my data should be correct at first. So that is called unit testing. So I'll test my everything, every work, and then I'll give it to QA. That means the job that QA will do, I will do it for myself, so that I can avoid any kinds of feedbacks from them. Because if I get one clean sheet from them without any feedback, then I can talk about this during my sprint review to my manager, right? I have not received any QA feedback. So that means directly from development to UAT it's happening. And when it becomes a constant process, like from you do not receive any feedback from QA, automatically you will grow up the ladder. You will be then given a move of a team lead, that, okay, now you just handle a team, just check their work, whether they're doing correctly or not, because QA should not be included.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Oh, how many story points we can handle in a month? Apply your common sense.
Four.
4.
Hmm.
Okay. Any other?
I think again that will depend on the category. We have categorized it on the depending on the developer.
How many story points? Only one answer should be the number. Like what Swati said, 4. It should be a number. It won't depend upon anything, and I'll explain you why.
So it's maybe
2. Okay.
3.
Sorry?
3.
3. Everyone is giving some 1, 2,
20.
20. Okay. Very, very common sense question, I told, right? One story point, let's consider, is at 8 hours of work. We work for 22 days. So one story point is equivalent to 1 day. So the maximum number of story points that can be handled is 22, right? 22 days, 22 story points. And that is the maximum number of story points that should be handled by any developer. If you are considering one story point as 8 hours, if it is considered less than that, then the number of story points can increase. It depends upon project. So this can be from project to project, but mathematically and practically, 22 story points can only be handled by a developer within a month. Why 22 story points? I gave you the reason. Why it is not dependent on any other factor. If you are giving handling story points, suppose say 14. Now, suppose, for example, at the end of the month, you are sure it is getting reflected that you have handled 14 story points. The Scrum Master will take a call with you. Brother, explain me why 14. That means there is a gap of 8 days. You are non-productive for 8 days. Now, you might you might tell them that because the requirement came in late, this and that. If that is fine, then it's okay. Then your Scrum Master will say, okay, fine. Then then your counter question will be, why haven't you taken up another task then? Because the sprints are, why didn't you come up to me stating that you are not productive and I need more tasks? So your Scrum Master's responsibility comes in when you are not productive. Though he might behave very well with you, but at the end of the month or during the sprint review, they will come back to you stating that, or every month's end, they will come back. They will keep a call. There is always a call that how productive you are. If they see you that you are non-productive, then it's not a good thing. So generally, we try to keep it like 20, 21, 22, depends upon the work. It can also extend to 24, 25, 26 as well. Now, if it is a constant process, that if you are extended like 28, 20, 30 story points you're handling in a month, then what does that mean to the business? If you're constantly handling, like for next 3 months, you're handling 30 story points every month. So what does that indicate to the business?
You are more
It means a
efficient with
lot
your
of
work.
work you are doing.
Lot of work you're doing. Okay, then
Or we can say that client is very demanding, so they might came up with a new idea that we need to change it. So again, again we have to extend our story point and we have to work on it. So we can say
okay, that's a good observation that we have to check the pattern that whether the story point came in with a larger story point or whether we are increasing the story points like that. So that can also be a possibility. Any other thing? What's the indication to the business besides this?
So for that, we can say that clients need a customized thing inside our work. That
Same
will be,
answer, right? Like sort of
and
same
as
thing,
well
right?
as
Means the customizations are increasing the story point. Business perspective, any other insights that you can understand? That means I need more resource. Simple, right? Work has increased, I need more resource. So that means if your story points, you are handling larger story points than your capability, it gives an indication to the business that I need more developers now. Simple as that. And vice versa. If you are handling less story points, your business will lay off people. So to be on the safe side, when you will work in the BI environment, and if they are following Agile, and if they are specifically following Jira to maintain this and maintaining these components inside Jira, ensure that you handle at least 20 story points every month, no matter what. You might feel that no one is giving me tasks. I am happy. Your task comes on Jira or any other platform if they are maintaining. If they are not maintaining, then it's fine. But if they are maintaining, then you need to be very, very careful always because they might not come to you in the first 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or a year. But when they will come very hard at you, and you won't have reasons. So it is always important that you keep your reasons strong and maintain your activity on the Jira board itself. Don't think that if someone is not reaching out to you means that you are safe. You always have to have your reasons there so that you don't face any difficulty at uncomfortable situations. Clear? Understood? What's the importance of story point? Actually, I feel story points to be very, very important in order to. So it's for a business, think from a business perspective. So when you work in an organization, you're doing business. Why you work? You work for salary. If you had sold tea and if you are becoming that chai wala, then if you are getting crore money over there, I would have मैं तो चाय बेचता अगर मुझे बोलता है 1 करोड़ रुपए मिलेगा चाय पे तो मैं चाय बेचता बाहर में जाए डेवलपमेंट तो वही बात है सो इट्स अ बिजनेस so similarly think from a business perspective कि अगर तुमको if they are giving you money so they need that work from you as well if you are not productive to me then मैं क्यों तुमको पैसा सपोज मैं किसी हाउस हेल्प को रखा हूँ खाना बनाने के लिए वो खाने में सिर्फ दाल चावल बना रहा है और मैं 5,000 रुपये पे कर रहा हूँ तो दाल चावल के लिए क्यों 5,000 रुपये पे करूँ मुझे बिरयानी भी चाहिए उसके साथ तो आई विल एक्सपेक्ट दैट एज वेल राइट एंड इट शुड बी अ कांस्टेंट प्रोसेस इट शुड नॉट बी लाइक कॉन्स्टेंटली मैं सेम ही चीज कर रहा हूँ so that's the reason always keep your answers strong if your story point is less see there you know yourself better than anyone else so always keep your reasons ready okay and आज से 6 महीने पहले क्या हुआ वो तो तुमको याद नहीं रहेगा so it's always important that you keep your footprints within the Jira board that this happened on this day then you reached out to this then you reached out when you maintain the track when the Scrum Master will come back to you or the business will come to you you will have reasons to say. See, the ultimate decision is of the business. अगर layoff तुम्हारे इस किस्मत में लिखा है तो वो होगा ही होगा. So you will get laid off no matter what reasons you give. But अगर है तो एक fight back करने का chance मिल जाता है, बाकी कुछ. Okay. And this domain is hire and fire kind of a thing also. Okay. And the projects are also like not like for years and years it continues. When the project ends, it ends. You go to another project or you change the company. That is how it works.
So basically, one story point is 1 day or 8 hours, as you are saying. But as you said, key developer can give the actual answer that this story point is a 4-level complexity or 5-level complexity. And it can take more than 1 day or 2 days. So in those cases, the developer has to maintain a record with him that okay, if I have worked 15 story points during the month, there were 5-6 story points which were actually taking 2 days to complete, and then I mean you
The
can
story
justify.
point has to be increased then and there itself. Suppose, for example, initially you got the requirement and you saw that whatever estimations that you have given, the number of story points had been 15. So the Scrum Master will say, okay, why it is 15? I'll try to find out more work. Then his responsibility kicks in to give you more work. Okay. So now when you started with the work, you found that you estimated something incorrectly and you are taking more time. Then you can increase the story point. But you have to immediately increase the story point after the approval from your Scrum Master or project manager that now you increase the story point. You should have that approval. Okay. Without approval, we cannot change it automatically because it will affect the planning of the Scrum Master. Because the Scrum Master decided to plan it in this way, but now you changed it in between, the Scrum Master will come to you because whenever you do any activity on Jira, it shoots a mail to everyone that Dheeraj has increased the story point. The Scrum Master will receive the mail. Then in the evening call, he will tell the Dheeraj, I saw you increase the story point. What's the reason behind it? So now you have to give the reason. If you sound reasonable, then your Scrum Master will say, okay, that's fine. So industry is flexible. मैं बता रहा हूँ थोड़ा वैसे करके, but it's not like that. It's flexible. But yes, in some projects, things are tough also. Okay. And nowadays, in most of the projects, the things are tough. They want everything like quick delivery. So story point बढ़ा सकते नहीं तुम, मतलब तुमको घटाना है उल्टा. मुझे जल्दी चाहिए. So the things are a bit different right now.
So if as you are saying, if a story point the estimation comes as 16 hours or 15 hours, that is basically breakdown into 2 story points is what you're saying. Because 8
Means one
hours.
story point is 8 hours only. Means
Okay.
based on the project, you cannot write 2 and then you can work only for 1 day. Means you can, but you do not say that. But there are few people, so जो थोड़ा ज़्यादा ही अलग ही खाना बनता है. So they do. Means at that time it will spoil the entire environment in the team because they will sound so much productive that you will feel left behind. And in every team, if you are working in a group, every team is there. One member तो ऐसा होता ही है जो अपने आप को पता नहीं क्या ही समझता है. मतलब they think that they would be able to go up the ladder and my managers will favor. And that also happens sometimes. The manager favors those people because they are showing something extra. That should not be done. Okay, you need to relax and work, not take additional pressure. But yes, don't be workaholic. That is what my advice to you guys. Means if you are workaholic, do something different. Maybe your hobby can become your passion, something different you need to do. Don't be workaholic in terms of this development work. It will affect your brain and health and everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Yes, Swati.
Sir, if learning Jira is mandatory for this project, means what? Our project.
We will have a Jira session, so don't worry. I will train you on Jira.
Yeah.